Hello, I'm Jeremy, and today we're going to look at a light two-player card game designed by one of my favorite Euro game designers by the name of Rudiger Dorn. And this is a game based on the Hobbit movies, or I guess it's technically based on the book. It's called The Hobbit Enchanted Gold, and it's a two-player only card game that's going to play in about 20 to 30 minutes. That involves you basically trying to collect gems of certain colors in order to defeat monster cards that come out over the course of the game. Let me take a minute to show you how the game plays, and then I'll come back and let you know what I think about it. So a two-player game of The Hobbit Enchanted Gold will be set up with you dealing out the round one cards, and the game is going to be played over 4 rounds. Each round has a set of cards which will always be the same from game to game, and there's going to be always 5 cards that are going to be placed vertically in these spaces, and 1 card which is essentially a boss monster. Here it's Gollum, which will be placed horizontally up here. There's also a ring card which will be rewarded at the end of the first round, and then each player will also get a deck of cards. They'll shuffle those and take 4 at random. Finally, there is this bag of jewels, which is somewhat translucent, so you want to make sure you don't hold it up to the light when you draw from it. So in this game, what you're going to do on your turn is pretty simple. Essentially, you're going to play a card, and let's say the player plays this card. It will always give you the gems, or a chance to draw the gems that are shown on the top, so this would be draw 2 gems. And then you look at the bottom if this condition is met, in most cases, and this means if there's an orc present, you'll draw an extra 3 gems. So I would get to draw 5 gems from the bag. So let's just draw 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now what I would have to do is, and this is mandatory, I will have to use these gems to defeat 1 or 2, up to 2 of these cards. So I could spend these 2 red ones to beat this orc, or I could beat this troll here, which requires 3 gems of the same color. So I would probably choose to do that. Since he gives you 3 points, I would simply return those gems to the bag and take that troll and just place it face down in my area. That would conclude my turn because I would not be able to defeat any of the remaining monsters with these gems. Then I just draw up to 4 cards for my next turn. It would go to this player. They would have to play a card as well. So let's see. I'm not sure why that one's there. And let's say that they played this card here. So this one here, it just says if this elf is present, you would get 2 extra, but she's not, so you would just do the top action. They would just draw 1 gem. They would not have to do any battles because all of these require at least 2. They would draw a card. We go back to this player. Now on this player's turn, let's say that they play this one here, this eagle card. What it lets you do is you take 2 gems from the bag, as typical, and then you reshuffle any of your discards back into your deck before you draw for your next one. And now this player has 2 yellow gems, so they would be able to defeat this orc, and they have to defeat that orc. And since it has this gem on it, you would keep that face up in front of you. At any time during the game, you could choose to flip that over, or you're forced to flip it over in order to defeat a monster when the opportunity presents itself. So that would be the end of their turn. And we'll just keep going back and forth like this, with players playing cards to get gems to defeat these monsters. Once all of these normal monsters are defeated, then players will have a chance to defeat Gollum, which you can see he requires these 3 specific gems to defeat. After that happens, you'll move on to the next round, and 6 new cards will come out. That will happen for 4 rounds, and then once the boss is beaten in the 4th round, then a winner will be declared based on whoever's collected the most victory points printed on the cards of the monsters that they've defeated. Some of these cards do have some other special powers. When defeating Gollum, you either get a wild gem, a one-time use of a wild gem of your choice, or the ability to use the ring from Lord of the Rings, obviously, or I guess the Hobbit, as the case may be. And what this does is whenever you play your Bilbo card, which I don't have here, maybe it's in this side, like this, it allows you to draw an additional 2 gems. So you pick which one of those 2 items you want, and the other player gets the other one. There are some other special cards. This card gives you 2 extra gems if only the boss of the level is remaining. This one, Gandalf, he allows you to convert 2 gems of any color into a wild gem of any color. And most of them, though, are mostly conditional on certain cards being out when you play your card. Among the bosses, they get progressively more difficult, so then they start requiring 3 spiders, but they'll give you more points and more rewards. So actually 3 gems. And then near the end of the game, they require, for example, 5 gems of a type, but they give you 10 points. Or this one, for example, when you defeat Smaug, you get to draw 2 additional gems. Really, this is it. The game basically has you defeating these various cards, which tend not to be super interesting. They all just require gems to beat and generally give you either gems or points. And whoever has the most points at the end of the game is going to win. All right, so that is the Hobbit Enchanted Gold, and I don't think I should pull any punches here. I think that this is an extremely bad game. I'm kind of shocked at how bad it is, given that it was designed by Rudiger Dorn, and I do suspect that somewhere along the development process and the publication process, maybe the rush to get this out in time for the Hobbit movie, something was lost along the way. I feel like it might have been a more complicated design at one point, or perhaps they just decided to dumb it down for mass market appeal. But in whatever case that might be, it is not an interesting game. There are very few decisions for you to make. All that you could choose is how many gems you're going to draw from the bag. Those, in some cases, may or may not help you to defeat a monster, and in most cases, you'll just be mandatorily defeating those monsters. You have no choice about whether or not you want to just save your gems for later, or you always have to defeat up to 2 monsters if you could defeat up to 2 monsters. In some very rare cases, you will have choices about which monsters you defeat, which might shift the monsters that are available to your opponent. But really, these are very small decisions to make, especially in a game that is so overwhelmingly determined by random luck. The game does have a slightly different distribution of the gems in the bag, so that does, I guess, give the potential to think about what you're doing on a turn. But really, if you can't control what gems you're drawing from the bag, you have very little control over what monsters you're able to defeat, and therefore very little control over the gameplay. And that is pretty much a deal breaker for me. You just are going through the motions, playing the cards that you have, generally just drawing gems at random and playing them because you have to. It's not very compelling. I'm really just disappointed by the game, considering its pedigree, its designer. And for fans of The Hobbit, the book I'm a fan of. I'm not so much the movie, but the book I am really a fan of. And there's very little theme here. It might as well be something like Splendor. You're just turning in gems to get cards. That's really what this is. But Splendor's a far better game with far more strategic decision making. This is just terrible out and out. So I hate to say it, but I would definitely suggest that you avoid The Hobbit Enchanted Gold.